Chapter 11. Woolly Pomposities of the Pious Teacher. Carisora. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. I do not think it was any kind of new electricity. I think it was the passage itself that has given me neuralgia. It disgusts me beyond words. To put the matter in a nutshell, tersely, concisely, distinctly, the world is being corrupted by all this asthmatic thinking, torpid thinking, nauseous thinking, bovine, uncertain, old maidish, chabacan, venomous, purgative, diffuse, whelp, currulous, exoratory, yahoo, rat-whittled, fog-bound, zigzag, superficial, gossiping, ambulant, tinsel, higgly-piggly, broken, unbalanced, ill-mannered, corked, vicious, jibbing, disjointed, windy, kneeling, eight-anna, yapping, Latin, flibberty-gibbet, semiotic, molting, glum, addled, neurotic, high-faultin, blear-eyed, orphan, invertebrate, capsized, peccable, jazzy, down at the hill, queasy, knavish, evasive, rococo, liquoric, formless, slavish, moth-eaten, guilty, hypocritical, unsystematic, lachrymose, ignorant, void, maudlin, jerry-built, waggly, neighing, knock-kneed, atrophied, odious, lazy, bloated, pedestrian, messy, cancerous, quivering, nasty, dull, ragbag, oleaginous, Eurasian, sappy, purulent, futile, tuberculosis, slatin, immature, veneered, unkempt, beige, woolly, over-civilized, emaciated, flat, gluey, dislocated, immediate, crippled, slushy, insanity, foggy, tea party, gloomy, wordy, Jonas, opportunish, babbly, pedantic, muddy, onastic, flatulent, unclean, hybrid, sluttish, flabby, nebulous, stale, unsorted, hurried, mangy, prim, empty, pretentious, theatrical, vain, loose, vaporous, loose, wooden, myopic, bloodless, soapy, flimsy, erratic, gabbling, unfinished, pontifical, wishful, mongrel, unripe, frock-coated, irreverent, glossy, unfashionable, hindbound, official, unmanly, and snobbish, misleading, and slippery thinking, as we find in Brunton, Besant, Clymer, Max, Hindle, Opinski, and in the catchpenny frauds of the secret peddlers, the UB, the OHM, the AMORC, and all the other gangs of self-styled Rosicrucians. They should be hissed off the stage. Now that we are agreed upon the conditions to be satisfied if we are to allow that a given proposition contains a thought at all, it is proper to turn our attention to the relative value of different kinds of thought. This question is of the very first importance. The whole theory of education depends upon a correct standard. There are facts and facts. One would not necessarily be much the wiser if one got the Encyclopedia Britannica by heart, or the tables of logarithms. The one aim of mathematics, in fact, Whitehead points this out in his little shilling arithmetic, is to make one fact do the work of thousands. What we are looking for is a working hierarchy of facts. That takes us back at once to our original addition and subtraction remark in my letter on mind. Classification, the first step, proceeds by putting similar things together and dissimilar things apart. One asset in the audit of a fact is the amount of knowledge which it covers. 2 plus 5 squared equals 49. 3 plus 4 squared equals 49. 6 plus 2 squared equals 64. 7 plus 1 squared equals 64. 9 plus 4 squared equals 169, and these are isolated facts. No more. Worse, the coincidences of 49 and 64 might start the wildest fantasies in your head. Something mysterious about this. But if you write, the sum of the squares of any two numbers is the sum of the square of each plus twice their multiple. A plus B squared equals A squared plus 2AB plus B squared. You have got a fact which covers every possible case and exhibits one aspect of the nature of numbers themselves. The importance of a word increases as its rank, from the particular and concrete to the general and abstract. It is curious that the highest values of all, the laws of nature, are never exactly true for any two persons. For one person can never observe the identical phenomena sensible to another, since two people cannot be in exactly the same place at exactly the same time. Yet it is just these facts that are equally true for all men. Observe, I pray, the paramount importance of memory. From one point of view, bless your heart, you are nothing at all but a bundle of memories. When you say, "This is happening now," you are a falsifier of God's sacred truth. When I say, "I see a horse," the truth is that I record in those terms my private hieroglyphic interpretation of the unknown and unknowable phenomena or point event, which has more or less recently taken place at the other end of my system of receiving impressions. Well, then, you realize, of course, how many millions or billions of memories there must be to compose any average, well trained mind. Those strings of adjectives all sprang spontaneously. I did not look them up in books of reference, so imagine the extent of my full vocabulary. And words are but the half baked bricks with which one constructs. See to it, then, that you accept no worthless material, that you select and select again, always in proper order and proportion. Organize, structuralize your thought, always with one aim in view of accomplishing the great work. Well, now, before going further into this, I must behave like a utter cad and disgrace my family tree and blot my Schuchen and my copybook by confusing you about realism. Excuse, not my muddle. It was made centuries ago by a gang of cursed monks, headed by one Duns Scotus, so called because he was Irish, or if not by somebody else equally objectionable. They held to the Platonic dogma of archetypes. They maintained that there was an original divine idea, such as greenness or a pig, and that a green pig, as observed in nature, was just one example of these two ideal essences. They were opposed by the nominalist, who said to the contrary that greenness or a pig was nothing in themselves. They were mere names. Nominalism from Latin nomen, a name, invented for convenience of grouping. This doctrine is plain common sense, and I shall waste no time in demolishing the realist. All a priori thinking, the worst kind of thinking, goes with realism in this sense. And now you look shocked and surprised, and no wonder. What, you exclaim, is the whole Kabbalistic doctrine but the very apotheosis of this realism? It was also called idealism, apparently to cheer and comfort the student on his rough and rugged road. Is not Atziluth the archetypical world? Is not? Oh, all right, keep your blouse on. I didn't go to go do that. You're quite right. The tree of life is like that in appearance, but that is the wrong way to look at it. We get our number two, for example, as that which is common to a bird's legs, a man's ears, twins, the cube root of eight, the greater luminaries, the spikes of a pitchfork, etc. But having got it, we must not go on to argue that the number two, being possessed of this and that property, therefore there must be two of something or other, which for one reason or another we cannot count on our fingers. The trouble is that sometimes we can do so. We are very often obliged to do so, and it comes out correct. But we must not trust any such theorem. It is little more than a hint to help us in our guesses. Example: an angel appears and tells us that his name is Malel, which adds to 111, the third of the numbers of the sun. Do we conclude that his nature is solar? In this case, yes. Perhaps because, on the theory, he took that name for the very reason that it chimed with his nature. But a man may reside at 81 Silver Street without being a lunatic, or be born at 5 o'clock on the 5th of May, 1905, and make a very poor soldier. I think you already understand the main point. You must structuralize your thinking. You must learn how to differentiate and how to integrate your thoughts. Nothing exists in isolation. It is always conditioned by its relations with other things. Indeed, in one sense, a thing is no more than the sum of these relations. For the only reality in the long run is, as we have seen, is a point of view. Now, this task of organizing the mind, of erecting a coherent and intelligible structure, is enormously facilitated by the Qabalah. When, in one of those curious fits of indisposition of which you periodically complain, and of which the cause appears to you so obscure, you see pink leopards on the staircase. Ah, the color of the king's scale of Tefereth. Oh, the form of Leo, probably in the queen's scale, and thereby increase your vocabulary by these two items. Then, perhaps, someone suggests that indiscretion in the worship of Dionysus is responsible for the observed phenomena. Well, there's Tefereth again at once. The priest, moreover, wears a leopard skin, and the spot suggests the sun. Also, Sol is lord of Leo. So there you are. Pink leopards are exactly what you have a right to expect. Until you have practiced this method, all day and every day, for quite a long while, you cannot tell how amazingly your mnemonic powers increase by virtue thereof. But be careful always to range the new ideas as they come along in their right order of importance. It is not unlike the system of keys used in big establishments, like hotels. First, a set of keys, each of which opens one door and one door only. Then, a set which opens all the doors on one floor only, and so on until the one responsible who has one unique key which opens every lock in the building. There is another point about this whole system of the Kabbalah. It does more than merely increase the mnemonic faculty by 10,000% or so. The habit of throwing your thoughts about, manipulating them, giving them a wash and brush up, packing them away into their proper places in your crystal cabinet, gives you immensely increased power over them. In particular, it helps you to rid them of the emotional dirt which normally clogs them. You become perfectly indifferent to any implication but their value in respect of the whole system. And this is of immense help in the acquisition of new ideas. It is the difference between a man trying to pick a smut out of his wife's eye with clumsy, greasy fingers, coarsened by digging drains, and an occultist furnished with a speculum and all the instruments exactly suited to the task. Yet another point. Besides getting rid of the emotions and sensations which cloud the thought, the fact that you are constantly asking yourself, now in which drawer of which cabinet does this thought go, automatically induces you to regard the system as the important factor in the operation, if only because it is common to every one of them. So not only have you freed sana, perception, from the taint of vedana, sensation, but raised it or demolished it, if you prefer to look at it in that light, to be merely a member of the sankhara, tendency class, thus boosting you vigorously to the fourth stage, the last before the last, of the practice of Mahasatipatthana. Just one more word about the element of Vedana. The intellect is a purely mechanical contrivance, as accurate and as careless of what it turns out as the cash register. It receives impressions, calculates, and states the result. That is A double L, all. Try never to qualify a thought in any way. to see it as it is in itself in relation to those other elements which are necessary to make it what it is. Above all, do not mix the planes. A dagger may be sharp or blunt, straight or crooked. It is not wicked looking or even trusty, except insofar as the quality of its steel makes it so. A cliff is not frowning or menacing. A snow covered glacier is not treacherous. To say so means only that alpine clubmen and other persons ignorant of mountain craft are unable to detect the position of covered crevices. All such points you must decide for yourself. The important thing is that you should challenge any such ideas. Above all, do not avoid or slur unwelcome trains of thought or distressing problems. Don't say, he passed on, when you mean he died. And don't call a spade a bloody shovel. I shall break off this brief note at this point, so that you may have time to tell me if what I have said so far covers the whole ground of your inquiry. Love is the law, love under will, fraternally.